How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hip Drop Podcast. Lucas and I are back on this Wednesday edition to preview the best weekend of the NFL season, maybe the best weekend in professional sports, in my opinion. Lucas might agree or not. Divisional round, divisional weekend. There are four games. The top eight teams in the NFL facing off for the right to go to the conference championship. I mentioned it yesterday, but just to refresh, on Saturday, you have the Broncos and the Bills on CBS. On Saturday night, you have the Seahawks and the 49ers on Fox. On Sunday afternoon, the New England Patriots and the Houston Texans on ESPN. And then to cap it all off, on Sunday night football, the Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams on NBC. So Lucas and I are going to preview each game. We're going to give our picks for each game to see who moves on and who joins the six teams who lost last week, as well as the teams who didn't qualify for the playoffs on the couch. Before we get to that, Lucas, how you doing? How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. A lot better than I was this time last week because I'm not sick. So
Yeah, that
excited about that. But no, I'm divisional round weekend. People call it the best weekend in sports. I largely agree. Like I think there are like more weekends where like more stuff's going on. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
divisional round. I think it's definitely the best football weekend of the year. I'll give everyone.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe outside of week one, just because like football's back. But I think pound for pound this week.
Yeah, week one's
Especially
up
the
there as
national
well.
championships on Monday. Like
Exactly. I was going
like,
to mention that.
was,
Indiana and Miami going in the national chip. For the record, like I think Indiana is going to absolutely demolish Miami in that game. I don't think it's going to be a very good game. But still, like it's still the college football championship champion gets crowned. So we'll see how that goes. This is not a college football podcast. So we'll just go in order of the games. We'll start with the Broncos and the Bills. The Broncos are the 1 seed in the AFC. They're coming off a bye. Meanwhile, the Bills, the 6 seed, they went down to Jacksonville, beat the Jaguars 27-24. They are, as of now, I believe they were favorites in the game. And that's the first time, this is the first time in really quite a while that I can remember, quite honestly, that a number 1 seed was not favored in the divisional round. And there's been some week 1 seeds. I remember like the Titans a few years back in 2021. They were a week 1 seed. They lost. They went one and done, but they were favored to beat the Bengals. And then you had, ironically enough, the Titans in 2008. They faced the Ravens. I believe it was John Harbaugh and Joe Flacco's first year. They were favored to win that game. But so this is a very rare occurrence where a number 1 seed is an underdog, a home underdog coming out of the divisional round. And I feel like the Broncos have the obvious advantages. Obviously, home field. That's an exceedingly difficult place to play. They've lost there just once all year. They have the better defense. They have the reigning defensive player of the year in Pat Surtain. Good safeties in Hufanga. Good pass rushers, obviously, in Benito and Zach Allen and Jonathan Cooper. Against the Bills offense that really is reliant on 2 players, Josh Allen and James Cook. And I don't think any of the Bills receivers are really good enough to get open against man coverage, the man coverage of the Broncos. McMillan is a really, really good slot corner. And Shakir is the Bills' best receiver. He's a slot receiver, so that should be an interesting matchup. I think it's going to be very similar to the Jacksonville game where Josh Allen's going to need to go God mode, which he did, and it was enough for them to win. But I think they're going to need to get a little more out of James Cook in this game. James Cook really didn't do much. He ran for just 53 yards against Jacksonville. They're going to need a little more out of him. The Broncos' run defense is still good, but it's not quite it's not the same level of their passing defense, specifically their pass rush. Obviously, they led the league in sacks this year. So the Bills' offensive line will have their work cut out for them. Luckily, they have a really, really good tackle tandem in Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown, maybe the best tackle tandem in the NFL. So Allen should have ample time to throw on some occasions. Obviously, Benito and the guys up front will get theirs. But I also think it's going to come down to the Broncos offense, like that matchup against the Bills defense, because I think the 2 worst units in this game are going to be on the field at the same time in Denver's offense and Buffalo's defense. Like, can Bo Nix take advantage of a Buffalo defense that really is susceptible to the run, can get had in the passing game? Trevor Lawrence really wasn't able to do that last week. And Bo Nix has had games this year where he's just really, really struggled to push the ball down the field. So if the Bills defense can get Bo Nix, off his spot and make him uncomfortable and take away the running game with RJ Harvey, which obviously, they've struggled to take away rushing attacks this year. Um, Denver, I think, could struggle to move the ball. I think it's going to be a relatively low scoring game because I think Buffalo's going to have to scratch and claw to put together 3 touchdown drives. But ultimately, that should be enough to win because this is a Broncos offense that really wasn't that good this year and didn't hasn't really come into the playoffs that hot. I mean, they scored just 20 points against the whatever the hell was left of the Chiefs, and they failed to score an offensive touchdown against the Chargers backups. So they're going to need to play a lot better if they want to win this game. But it should be a fun game to watch regardless.
Yeah, I'm excited to not watch this game. And I don't mean that I'm not going to watch it out of protest. I just will not be able to watch this game because
Oh boy.
I will be on vacation and I will be busy Saturday. Much to my chagrin, I will not be able to watch this game very much. So I'm going to be very annoyed. But I think the key for this game is I know it's like you said, the two weakest units are going to be on the field at the same time. It's going to be the Bills defense, Broncos offense. It's just who can get more wins. And what I mean
Exactly.
by wins is like not necessarily. I think if the Bills defense could force 1 or 2 turnovers in this game, that's going to be a win for them. If the Denver offense doesn't turn the ball over, and in fact they maybe get 3 or 4 touchdowns in this game, which if Sean Payton has a plan and if Bo Nix is as good as Denver fans think he is, then that's going to be a win. Because
Yeah.
I almost think like the Bills offense, Broncos defense are going to cancel each other out to a large extent. Like, I think Denver's defense is a little bit overrated. It's a good defense, but this pass rush isn't exactly as dominant as people think it is. Plus, the Bills can pass protect, so I'm not really worried about Allen
Yeah.
being under duress a lot of times in this game. It's can the Bills receivers get open just enough to force or just to give them a chance? Because just because Allen's clean, that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to move the ball. It's likely they're going to be able to move the ball, but it's not guaranteed. So I think this is going to have to be a game where Allen scrambles, and that's going to be tough against a Denver defense that's pretty stacked, though it hasn't been performing like it was stacked. This is going to be a game where like 1 or 2 times he's going to have to rattle off like a 20-yard scramble or maybe like a 10-yard scramble on like 3rd and 9 or something like that.
For
Just do
sure.
something to flip the momentum, which I don't think is that real, but like just to give them a boost, just to give them like one extra edge because I think this is going to be a razor thin game. Like I just can't really see a Buffalo blowing out Denver in this game. Like
No,
I'm
especially in
like
Denver. Yeah, it'd be tough to
a
see.
lot of, a lot of people are going to pick Buffalo, but the only real way they win in a blowout is if Bo Nix has a complete meltdown, which I'm not saying that's impossible. So maybe it is possible, but in the end, I Denver's defense hasn't forced a lot of turnovers in this game, so I'm not really that worried about Allen having a meltdown game himself. Like when I say meltdown, I mean like 2 turnovers. I just don't
Hmm.
really see that happening in this game. Like maybe they get one, like there's like a freak play where it goes off like a tight end's hands or something like that, and it gets picked off. Like happens to the best of them. I just can't see a multi-turnover game for Allen. He was awesome last week. Can he be awesome again this week? I think he's under more pressure to perform this week, but we'll see if his defense can make as many plays as it did last week versus Jacksonville. Because if it can't, it'll be tough. But I honestly believe in this Denver offense less than I did the Jacksonville offense. So
Oh,
we'll
for
see. But
sure.
they're coming
Yeah.
off a bye, so that could be the big difference.
I mean, the only thing that the Broncos really do well offensively is their offensive line. They're really good pass protection. Garrett Bowles was a first team All Pro at left tackle. Quinn Miners was a first team All Pro at the right guard position. But really, outside of that, like the receivers outside of Cortland Sutton don't really scare anybody. RJ Harvey's had a good rookie season. He hasn't been great, but he's been competent. He's been a good rookie running back. I have an itchy nose, so sorry if you see me keep rubbing it. And obviously, Nix has been up and down this season. And the big thing is Riley Moss is the one guy in the Denver secondary that if you're Josh Allen, you're zeroing in on because obviously you don't want to test Sertan too much. I mean, the guy is the best cornerback in the league. But Riley Moss is a guy who's committed plenty of penalties throughout the year. He's been beaten on multiple occasions. The problem is that the Bills' outside receivers are not exactly great. I mean, their outside receivers are Keon Coleman, they are Brandon Cooks, Joshua Palmer. Is he going to play in this game because he didn't play against Jacksonville?
I have no idea. Let me check out the Bills injury report.
And the big thing is Tyrell Shavers, who isn't exactly a world beater, but he tore his ACL against Jacksonville, so he'll be out for the rest of the postseason. So you're relying on Keon Coleman and Brandon Cooks, obviously who's way past his prime, Joshua Palmer. Shakir on the inside. They do have two really good tight ends. I think you're going to have to use Kincaid and Knox in the passing game. Obviously, Cook's a guy who can catch passes out of the backfield. Johnson and Ray Davis are good complementary backs, so you can use them as well. But if you can get Riley Moss a few times, if Keon Coleman can live up to his draft status on just a handful of plays and get some big plays down the field, I think that'll be key for Buffalo.
Yeah, I agree. And for the record, Josh Palmer is not on the injury report this week.
So he'll be playing.
Um,
That's big. I mean, Josh Palmer, not a world beater by any stretch, but he adds to the receiving core. I think it's well documented that the Bills receivers are not fantastic. I mean, Shakir is the only guy who would be a preferred starter on most contending teams. But they do make up for that with Allen's dual threat ability, with Cook, with their rushing attack, and they do have a good tight end room and Dawson Knox, and, of course,
yeah.
Kincaid and Jackson Hawes, the rookie, and they do have a good pass protecting and run blocking offensive line. So the Bills have enough talent on offense, even with their weak receiving core, that I think they can move the ball against the Denver defense. I agree with you, is overrated. They're good. They're a good defense, but they're not at the level of the Texans defense or even the Seahawks defense. Like, they're not that level of a defensive unit. They're a very good unit. They're not an outstanding unit. And I think Allen is good enough to get his against them. And the big thing is if Bo Nix can take advantage of Buffalo defensively, because obviously they have their warts, but Denver's warts are offensively are apparent as well. Because so that's the big thing is who can win more between the Bills offense or the Broncos offense and the Bills defense, and I think that'll determine the outcome of the game. Are we ready to make our picks, or do you have any more previewing to go through?
Other than the Broncos defense has had a bigger tendency to give up big plays than you might think for a defense
Yeah.
that good. Like they're not like rancid by any means, but like they give up their fair share of long plays. Like it happens to the best of them. Like so, this is going to be a game where like if they don't get home and Josh Allen can run around for 5 seconds, someone's going to be open after 5 seconds. It might be the guy whoever Riley Moss is covering, but it's hard to cover, especially in the altitude. I know the Denver players are used to it, but it's always going to be tough up there. But we'll see. But I don't know if you want to go straight into my picks. Let me make my pick and then you go, or do you want to come back
Yeah, you
on
can, you
screen
can
before I
go.
make the pick?
I'm right here.
I I went back and forth. I'm going to take the slight. Technically, right now the Bills are a underdog. Like I was kind of surprised to
Oh,
learn
so
that
the
the line
Bills
moved.
opened as the favorite. They opened
Yeah,
as the favorite. Yeah.
I am going to take Buffalo. I think this is going to be a game where it's going to be very close, kind of like the Jacksonville game.
Hmm.
I'm going to take it pretty similar score to their wild card game, but I'm going to take 24-21 Buffalo. They win in a game where I think they might get outplayed a little bit, but I think Josh Allen makes one fewer mistake or one fewer costly mistake, which is kind of redundant, but one fewer costly mistake than Bo Nix, and they win this football game.
Yeah. So, like I said, I am going with the same logic I went with the Bills against the Jaguars. I'm taking the better quarterback. I'm taking the more experienced team, and I'm taking Buffalo to win on the road against Denver. A Denver team that, look, I'm not going to say they're complete frauds. Like, you don't go 14-3 by complete accident, but they are probably one of the weakest one seed we've seen in quite some time. And Buffalo, I think, despite the record discrepancy, they're 2 games worse than them in the regular season. I do think the quality of team is a lot closer than that. And I think this is a team that has a lot of confidence going into Jacksonville, winning a game that a lot of people thought they would lose. A lot of people thought the Jaguars were going to win that game. We were in the minority. I'm going to take Buffalo to win and advance the AFC Championship and send Denver home. Which be whoever loses this game is massively disappointing because if you're Denver, anytime you lose in the divisional round as the 1 seed, if you fail to get to the Super Bowls as the 1 seed, it's very very disappointing. And if you're the Bills, this is another year that goes by not getting to the Super Bowl. I like the Bills because I trust Allen significantly more than I trust Bo Nix, and I think that'll be the ultimate difference. Alrighty, Saturday night, an NFC West matchup. For the second time in 3 weeks, the Seattle Seahawks will face off against the San Francisco 49ers. The two teams split the regular season matchups. They bookended the regular season against each other. San Francisco won in week 1, and then Seattle won that low scoring game in week 18 to clinch the number 1 seed. Uh, This is the biggest line of the week. Seattle is a touchdown favorite. Not overly surprising given the fact that all of the 49ers injuries. George Kittle, of course, will not be there this game. Fred Warner is back at practice, but he will not play unless they win this game and go to the NFC Championship. So I think all logic says the Seahawks should win this game fairly comfortably. I mean, they're rested. They are in their current states of their roster more talented. Their defense, along with Houston, is maybe the best in the league, going up against an offense that is really Christian McCaffrey and not much else. And then of course their offense quietly has struggled over the last 2 months. The Seahawks offense really, despite all their wins, did not perform great down the stretch in the regular season. And they scored just 13 points against a undermanned 49ers defense in that Week 18 game. So I think the biggest thing is Robert Saleh against Sam Darnold. And Darnold played okay in that Week 18 game, but really didn't have to do much. Like the defense, when your defense allows just 3 points, you're going to win most games. Um, it's can the 49ers defense and their undermanned secondary take JSN out of the game? Because outside of JSN, there's not a lot in Seattle's passing game that really scares you. Like if you have to force Cooper Kupp to beat you at this stage of his career, like I don't think that's a terrible thing for the Niners. AJ Barner's a very good tight end, so you have to account for him. And then Walker is a very good running back. So Seattle does have ways to beat you with the rushing attack and Smith and Jigba, who was, along with Puka Nacua, statistically the best receiver in the league this year. But if you can take JSN out of the game and you can neutralize Walker, which is a lot easier said than done, I think they can hold Seattle's scoring down. I think the biggest thing is, can Kyle Shanahan put together another masterclass game plan and scheme around the Seattle defense and see if they can do just enough to win the game? See if they can score 17 points, and if the 49ers defense can hold up just enough, if that's enough to win. It's going to be tough for the Niners, but I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people anticipate.
I agree. Like it's +7. That's the spread right now. Is about 7, maybe 7.5 points, maybe 6.5, just depending on the book. I think it's going to be closer than that. The key to this game is the key for every game for San Francisco is, can they get pressure, because that defensive line is not very good. Even with Nick Bosa, it wasn't overwhelming, but without Nick Bosa, it is less than very good, to say the least.
Yeah.
Darnold has been very, 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 very excellent when he's been kept clean, not under pressure. He has a 91.7 overall grade when he's kept clean, but when he's under pressure, that drops to 48, which is very below average, even for a starter. The problem is San Francisco does not generate a pass rush, and their secondary has been very hit or miss. So he might not have to hold the ball that long in order to see pressure. And when he's blitz versus not blitz, the grade's about the same. So production doesn't really drop off, but the passer rating does take a little bit of a hit. A hit, not hick. Good drops from 105 to 90 when he's blitzed versus not blitzed. So a little bit of a drop off, but I think San Francisco is going to have to take some chances in this game, unless Robert Saleh really has something up his sleeve, or just betting on a Sam Darnold down game. He's going to have to take some chances in this game. I know Jay is a pain in the ass to cover one-on-one. They just might have to do it. I'm not saying they have to blitz 80% of the snaps, but if it's a gotta have it down, you got to put Darnold under pressure. And I think this is one of those games where if they could just get to him twice, relatively early in the game, that might be enough to knock him off. Because Darnold is one of those guys that when he's pressured, he gets flustered. We saw it against the Lions last year in the Week 18. We definitely saw it against the Rams. He stops trusting himself, stops trusting his offensive line, and then everything else goes down. I think the game plan for the Niners and Robert Saleh has to be, I don't care what happens. We might give up a touchdown on the first drive of the game. We have to get to Darnold, and we have to hit him early. And then if they get him flustered, then that makes it a lot easier to coach defense, of course. But can they get to him early enough to where it's still competitive? And, of course, Kyle Shanahan has to be in his bag in this game. Mike McDonald, probably one of the best defensive head coaches in football. He might be the best defensive first head coach in football. There's a serious argument there.
Yeah.
But can Kyle Shanahan do it again? Against the Eagles' defense is good. Not as great as last year, at this point last year. Not as good as Seattle's this year, but
it's a good defense.
Capable of doing some very, very good stuff. Without George Kittle, that'll make it tough, but Brock Purdy needs to be in his bag in this game. Brock Purdy was not very good in week 18. That can't be the case this week because
No.
if Purdy is underwhelming again, then forget about it.
Yeah, they're gonna need Purdy to be at his best. And the Philadelphia game was a bit of an up and down performance. Like he was gritty, he made plays when he needed to, but he can't throw those two picks. Like he can't throw those meatball subs that he threw to Quinyon Mitchell in those games. I think the Niners will need to go out of their comfort zone. I think they'll need to do another trick play that Shanahan pulled off to catch the Seattle off guard. And I think Salah, his thing will, because Darnold is a very kind of average processor. He's not a bad processor, but he's not a great processor. Like if Salah can speed up Darnold's process, I think Seattle's offense can really be slowed down. If Salah can do something to really make Darnold uncomfortable and force him, to rush throws or not go through his progressions, I think San Francisco, even with pretty much a non-existent pass rush, they had the least amount of sacks in the NFL this year, can get enough stops to win. But Purdy needs to play well. They need to use McCaffrey, obviously, and Shanahan's going to need to absolutely be the best schemer that he's been, which is saying a lot. But he's going to need to scheme these guys open because their receivers, their passing game weapons. Like I don't know how if they'll have success just beating Seattle's secondary one-on-one. You need to get Demarcus Robinson open. You need to get Jawan Jennings open. You need to use check. And the 49ers offensive line, which is a pretty good unit, they need to hold up. A big thing with that week 18 game, Trent Williams didn't play. He's playing in this game. Like that's huge for the 49ers. So if they can hold up pass protection and they can slow down and they can speed up Darnold's process and get pressure on him, whether it's through blitzing, whether it's through, exotic blitzes or something like that, because obviously their pass rushes struggled like rushing with four, getting home with four. I think they can have success in this one. The big thing I'm looking forward to, Lucas, is the coaching in this game. I think this is some of the best coaches in the league. You have Mike McDonald and Robert Saleh coaching defense, then Shanahan and Clint Kubiak, who is obviously a hot head coaching candidate, coaching offense. This game should be a very exciting chess match on both sides of the ball. For my pick, I want the 49ers to win just because, everything that they've done this year is so extraordinary, I think, how they've overcome so much. But I'm going to go with my head. I'm going to pick Seattle. I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be a low scoring game, like, 19-16, something of that regard. I could see the Niners winning. I think it's worth noting that Brock Purdy is 4-0 at Lumen Field, and Kyle Shanahan, every time he's made the playoffs, has made it to the NFC Championship game or further. So that's worth mentioning, but I think that streak ends. I think it'll be close, but give me Seattle in a close one.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way. I'm rooting for San Francisco. Have nothing against them. Chiefs beat them twice in the Super Bowl, so if they happen to get a ring, I'm not going to be pouting, but I just can't see them winning this game. Or I can't see I'm not confident in them winning this game, so I'm going to go with Seattle. They're off a bye. They're at home. They're going to be fired up. Trent Williams, although he played against the Eagles, was not very good in pass protection. He allowed 6 pressures, 1 quarterback hit in just 37 snaps. And Seattle doesn't have as daunting of a 4-man pass rush as Philly, but it's not bad either. So I'm
Yeah.
not confident in his health. In his left guard, Spencer Buford got lit up like a Christmas tree against the Eagles, so he's not going to have much help. But we'll see. But I'm going to take Seattle. I think they win by 4 or 5 points, maybe something like 27-21. That's 6 points, but 27-21, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, I would not be surprised if the 49ers win this game just because Darnold still hasn't proven it in the playoffs. And I know he won some big games down the stretch, but those 2 big wins, the Rams game was a very, very lucky game. And the Niners game, like I said, they scored 13 points in that one. So I don't fully trust him still. But I think with how injured the Niners are, I think it will be enough. But it'll be very fun to watch. I'm very excited to watch that game. All right, let's go to the Sunday games, Lucas. Patriots, Texans, Sunday afternoon in Foxborough. The Texans coming off that dominant defensive performance against the Steelers. The Patriots coming off a gritty win against the Chargers. It is the 2-5 matchup in the AFC. Um, the big thing, the big story of this game, Lucas, is the Texans defense. Like that is just an app. You talk about great defenses. The Texans defense, I think, is the best overall unit left in the postseason. And I think they're going to make things really, really hard for Drake May and company. Because the Patriots offensive line is not particularly good at all. And that's not a good, that's the big story, Lucas, is that the Steelers offensive line is better than the Patriots offensive line by a decent margin. And the Texans got pressure on Aaron Rodgers all game. And the big difference is Drake May is obviously significantly more mobile than Rodgers, but the Steelers offensive line is a good unit. And the Texans made them just made them look junior varsity throughout the entire game. And the Patriots offensive line really struggled in pass protection at times against the Chargers. Drake May was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL this year. So if you have a subpar offensive line against Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter and Togiai on the inside and Sheldon Rankins and all those dudes up front, it could be a long day at the office. On the flip side, can the Texans offense play a little better than they did against Pittsburgh? Because offensively, it was not a great performance by Houston. They scored 17 points in that game. CJ Stroud was not good at all. He made some nice plays on third down, but he had 3 turnovers. He had 5 fumbles, which is just absurd. He recovered 3 of them. Stroud's going to need to play a lot better in this game than he did against Pittsburgh because I feel like if he plays like that, Drake May and New England's offense are more likely to take advantage of his mistakes. But with that defense, with how good that defense is, New England, like I think if they can get to 20 points in this game, I think that's a pretty big accomplishment.
We'll see if that's a big accomplishment. I think it might be, but it takes when you have a quarterback as talented as May, anything can happen. One thing that's interesting is so far this season, including the 1 week of postseason, Drake May has the where is it? Where is it? He has the 7th highest out of 27 qualified quarterbacks in pressure to sack ratio. So when he gets
Yeah.
pressured, he's not the best at avoiding it in terms of not avoid or in terms of avoiding sacks. For context, Brock Purdy's actually number 1 by a healthy margin in avoiding sacks when under pressure. So and Bo Nix is number 2. So those could be keys to the game. And Caleb Williams is number 3. So there we go. Like, and Stafford's number 5. So there we go. Like, good news. Like, if your quarterback doesn't take sacks when pressured, you're more likely to win football games. So that'll be interesting. The Patriots had a soft schedule this year, relatively speaking. So that could explain why his high pressure sack ratio hasn't hurt him. But we'll see. It's the highest number remaining out of any team in the playoffs. And it was actually most of any quarterback that made the playoffs, period. Against the Texans, that's going to be tough to avoid. Like, that's going to be tough because he's at 21.5%. Like, that number is against 35 against the Chargers, who don't have that good of a pass rush relative compared to Houston. Like, if that number is 25% against the Texans, that could easily be like 5 sacks. And 5 sacks in a game like this against Houston, which their sacks are not like other people's sacks. Pause. Other teams' sacks.
Oh, okay.
Like they're like I'm much more against like the Chargers, and I think he had a fumble against the Chargers anyways. Like, if he gets sacked
Yeah, he
5 or
lost
6
the fumble
times,
in that game. Yeah.
yeah, like that's probably going to happen against Houston. Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. are going to be headhunting in this game, like in a legal way. That's going to be a key. They need to get rid of the ball quickly. Josh McDaniels needs to be in his bag. Doesn't need to dial up a ton of shots in this game, but just get the ball out of Drake May's hands as quick as possible. But if not, the longer May has to hold the ball, it's more likely that bad things are going to happen. That applies to most quarterbacks, but when you have Houston's pass rush, that is especially true.
And that was the Steelers' strategy because the Steelers this year, their biggest success was getting the ball out quickly, and that didn't work because the thing about Houston is they tackle so well. Their secondary tackles so well. Like Jalen Petrie is I think is one of the hardest hitting safeties in the league. Outstanding tackler. Stingley and Laster both really good tacklers at the corner position. So the I just think this Houston defense is so hard to scheme against because they really have no discernible weaknesses. Um, you have Al-Shaair and Toe on the second level. Obviously, you know about the edge rush and their secondary. They have, I think, by a mile the best secondary in the league. So New England's going to have their work cut out for them in this game. And I just think it's going to come down to CJ Stroud protecting the football. And the big thing is, can Nico Collins play? Because he had to leave Monday's game with a concussion. Can they clear him to play? Because outside of him, Lucas, like the Texans pass catchers are pretty bare. Like it's the two rookies, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, Xavier Hutchinson, Dalton Schultz at tight end. Their running game was really good against Pittsburgh on Monday. So they have success running the football with Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. So that's the big story is can Houston's offense do a little more, contribute a little more than they did against the Steelers? And if they do that, I think they can win because New England's offense, while really good statistically, is not overly talented. Like their pass catchers outside of Stephon Diggs are not great. Like it's Kyle Williams, it's Keyshawn Booty, it's Pop Douglas, it's Hunter Henry. Like those guys are fine, but if that's your weaponry against this Texans defense, I think it could be difficult because the guys on the other side of the ball are better. The Texans have the advantage on most of those matchups. So this game to me is going to come down to Nico Collins' health and how CJ Stroud plays.
I'm nervous about this game if I'm Houston. Like the Steelers have a good defense, but the Patriots defense, although I don't think it's talented, I think it was better than Pittsburgh's this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, it
Like
was.
CJ Stroud would play one of the worst games a playoff winning quarterback has ever played in the modern era. And I don't know if he's going to be able to get away with that against the Patriots or against the Patriots like he did the Steelers, but man, that was a tough watch on Monday night. Like he fumbled 4 times. Or no, he fumbled 3 times and he threw another pick. Like he tried everything possible to lose that game and the Texans won by 25. And I think a little of that is Fugazi. Like the game was closer than that.
Yeah, it
But at the
was.
same
Yeah, they had
time,
that
like
garbage time pick six by Bullock. Yeah.
I just think I think the Texans need to go. I don't know if it's going to work, but I think they just need to plan in this game like 0 turnovers by the offense, 0 giveaways. Like that needs to be the game plan. Like it almost got to the point against the Steelers on Monday where the Texans almost should have been spiking the ball every play, or at least like running it up the middle every play. That would have been a better strategy than what CJ Stroud was doing. But at the same time, I think they're just better off like relying on their defense. We're going to win it through our defense. Like you said, the Texans defense might be the best overall unit left in the playoffs or in the playoff field entirely. Maybe even the best unit in the NFL, like offense or defense. They need to rely on it. Like it's more like socially acceptable for teams to rely on their offense. I think the Texans just need to ride that D and just ride that D all the way to California. And then maybe they'll get a nice release of a championship and confetti. Pause.
Okay. Okay. That's enough out of you. So my pick, I gotta be honest with you. Like I've been pretty big on the Patriots this year. Like I've said like them and the Bills are the top two teams to beat in the AFC. Um, But New England's offensive performance against the Chargers was not exactly encouraging. They scored just 1 touchdown. If Justin Herbert plays like average in that game, there's a chance they lose, to be honest with you. Um, I think Houston's going to win because I think Stroud will play better than he did against Pittsburgh. I don't see him playing that poorly again. If Collins plays, that makes the case even better. And even if he doesn't, I'm still going to go with Houston to win. I just think that defense is so good. And a New England team with a bad offensive line in May, you know, the one weakness, one of the few weaknesses he has is avoiding sacks when he's pressured. I think that could be a recipe for disaster for the Patriots. I think it'll be close. I think New England will put up a much better fight than the Steelers did, but give me the Texans behind that great defense to win. So I think they host the AFC Championship game as a wild card team. That's got to be a first. That's got to be a first for every. That's going to be the first time in history where two teams that did not win their division are in the championship game. And that's my prediction. That's what I think is going to happen. Give me the Texans to go in there and win.
I love this. I'm actually just going to go with the Patriots. Like, I think the Texans might be the better overall team. I'm just going to go with the team that's at home, has the better quarterback, has who I think is the better coach, and is coming off more rest. I understand the Patriots weren't impressive on Sunday night. I just got a feeling they're going to win this football game. But this might be one of those situations where, 7 minutes into the game, I'm texting you yeah, I probably want a do-over. Like,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I'm going to take the Patriots. I don't think they're going to win by like any sort of blowout, but I'm checking the line. They're favored by 3. That's probably about right. I might just take Houston to cover, just because I'm more comfortable with probably the Texans winning than I am the Patriots winning by at least 4. But I'm going to take the Patriots something like 20-17, and they win just purely because they have the better quarterback in Drake May.
Yeah, obviously May's better than Stroud. And my process, I usually take the team with the better quarterback, and I'm one of 3 of doing that because I took Sam Darnold to beat Brock Purdy, and I take CJ Stroud to beat Drake May. But I just think that that Texans defense is just so good. I think it's going to carry them to another victory, and I think Stroud will contribute more in this game than he did against Pittsburgh. So our first disagreement: Lucas takes the Pats at home. I take Houston on the road. So that leads us to the final game, the Bears and the Rams. And this game is interesting for a variety of reasons because the Rams, I don't think many people would argue are the better team. They're the better team. They have the better coach. Like as good as Ben Johnson's been this year, he's not Sean McVay. They have the better quarterback. They have the better 2 through 53 roster. Like everything says like they should win. However, a big thing for both these teams this year, Lucas, is that the Bears have found inconceivable ways to win games this year, whereas the Rams, on some occasions, have found inconceivable ways to lose this year. They did it against Philadelphia in week 3. They did it against San Francisco in week 5. They did it against Seattle in week 16. Like the Rams have lost games where you watch the game and they're clearly the better team and it doesn't matter. Whereas the Bears have won games where it feels like they're the worst team for the majority of it. It's in Chicago, which is another advantage. That place is going to be absolutely wild. The Bears are coming off their first playoff win since the 2010 season, and another advantage is that that game is apparently going to be very cold. And Matthew Stafford in his career has not been very good in cold weather. He just has not. He played in a dome in Detroit. He obviously plays on the West Coast. That's just been not how he's fared. Like he has not been great in inclement weather. So that plays into the Bears' hand. I think if you're the Rams, if you get a big lead, you go. Given how the Bears have operated this year, you can't take your foot off the gas because the Bears have shown you like the game's not over until the clock hits 000. Um, and for the Rams defensively, I just think you got to take away their running game and force Caleb Williams to stay in the pocket. Do not let him get out of the pocket to scramble because Caleb Williams is better playing out of structure than he is just sitting in the pocket. So if you're Chris Shula and you're the Rams defense, you have to take away these scrambling lanes and make Caleb Williams beat you from the pocket. You got to take Colston Loveland out of the game to some degree because he's become Caleb's favorite weapon in the passing game. He absolutely killed the Packers in that game. So Colston Loveland's got to be accounted for. So that's the key to the Rams. Do not take your foot off the gas. They're going to be more up for this game than they were against Carolina. I think part of the Carolina game was that they kind of slept walk through it and they still escape with a win. So they got to be a little cleaner in this game than they are in that one. But force Caleb Williams to stay in the pocket, take away Loveland, obviously mitigate their running game, and get out to a lead and keep your foot on the gas, which is the opposite of what the Packers did.
This is going to be a game where the Bears' lack of a pass rush could come back to haunt them. And I know the
Yes.
Panthers didn't exactly have a pass rush either, but they had like young talent that was capable of getting through eventually. I just don't really see that with the Bears. Montez Sweat, I don't think was ever really that good of a player, say for maybe 1 year. But I think this is just gonna. I think this is gonna be a game where I know it's gonna be cold. Stafford's going to have to come through in this game. Like he was bad
Yeah.
under pressure against the Panthers, and that's part of the reason why that game was pretty close. That can't happen against Chicago. It just can't. And I know you can make an argument that EJ Evero is a better defensive coordinator than Dennis Allen in
Hmm.
Chicago, but neither defense was very good this year. Their underlying numbers were virtually identical. Like so far through 18 games, like the Panthers have a 60.4 grade, Panthers or Bears at 60.2, and their underlying numbers, like specifically, are about the same. So these defenses are about the same. The difference is one team's offense is definitely more capable of explosive plays. But this game was not pretty for the Bears. Like the Bears' offense against the Packers was not exactly moving the ball consistently.
No.
It was just at the very end, and that was the story of their season. It was just the very end where the offense exploded. And I think the Rams defense is, you can make an argument it's like the third or fourth best defense in football. Like I am very, very high on this unit. I think they do everything very, very well. They get a good pass rush with 4. Their secondary, I think, is very underrated. Like I think it's a very good secondary. So I don't think guys are going to be running open. But the question is, can the secondary actually perform when it's cold? Like that's going to be a question. Like it's one thing to be very good when you're in controlled climate in Southern California. One thing, can you do it when it's like single digit degrees outside? It's not fun, especially when you're a little guy. You're a secondary player that's like 200 pounds. It's not fun to be in the cold. It's a lot fun to be a defensive lineman when you're 300 pounds, like, and you're in the heat of the pile. It's not fun to be like a wide receiver or a corner when it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
Can they hold up in this game? Like, if the Rams defense plays it well as it has for most of the year, I think they're going to win this game. The Packers defense showed in crunch time when they didn't have Micah Parsons, they didn't have anyone capable of getting home. The Rams have multiple guys who can do that. So I don't think that's going to be a problem in this game. Because the Rams have 3 guys who have a pass rush grade this season 80 or higher. And that's their 3 guys with the most snaps: Kobe Turner, Byron,
and Young. Again, and Fisk is a good player as well. Like they have a really good front four.
Fisk is all right.
Really
yeah.
good front
Fisk
four.
is all right. And then Poona Ford has had some moments this year. Like he had a sack against the Panthers, and he had another sack against Seattle. So he's been clutch in clutch games this year. I understand Caleb Williams has been very good at avoiding sacks, but if the Rams can get consistent pressure on an offensive line that's hurting, because I think Ozzie Trapilo is out. So the Bears' offensive line has been good this year, but it's going to be down one of their starters. I just think the key to this game for the Rams is don't lose momentum. Like, do not give the Bears anything, because we've seen it before with teams in the past where the Bears are just one of those teams that need one spark. Like, and that spark against the Packers was that 4th and 8 conversion. The Rams can't allow anything like that in this game. They just got to I think this is the classic bend don't break type of game. Like I think it almost plays into Chicago's hands if they create explosive plays on defense to an extent. And this is just one of those games where teams are just trading explosive blows back and forth, because I think the Bears like that. I think this is going to be a game where it's going to be a slow burn. Caleb Williams is talented, but doesn't play within structure. So force Chicago to go down the field in 8, 10, 12, even 15 play drives, because they're more likely to make a mistake. Don't blow coverages and allow Caleb to find Luther Burden for a free 40-yard gain because you couldn't cover for an extra second. This is a game where the Rams got to be conservative. Trust their front 4 to get home. Don't get impatient, because I'm looking at Caleb's underlying numbers this year. He actually has a higher grade, and I'm trying to check his passer rating. His passer rating is actually higher when blitzed this year. He has an 81 overall grade when blitzed, 74 when not. Passer rating of 86 when not blitzed, 93 when blitzed. And he's, of course, a better quarterback when kept clean. I think the Rams are going to have to be patient. I think you do the opposite of the 49ers. I think you only rush 3 or 4 at a time and just make the Bears earn every single yard down the field. Then they're more likely to make a mistake and then play in the Rams' hands. Take the ball out of Matthew Stafford's hands, because it is cold. That is going to be a concern. Get a lead early, get up by 10, and almost try and be up by 10 the entire time. Don't try and force your way up to be up 24. Just be up 10 the entire time. Then it's when it's late in the game when you need to go for the kill shot. Then you go with Stafford and Puka Nacua to put this game away. But don't let the Bears gain any momentum, which I don't think is real, but a lot of people think is. So
I absolutely think it is. And I think, sorry, I just turned my camera off for a little bit. Just my camera's being a little wonky, so I had to turn it off. So you're just hearing my voice, my beautiful voice. I agree with everything that you say. And I think the Bears pass rush, not being good, the Bears pass rush, besides the Niners, is the worst left in the playoffs. That's huge for Stafford, because Stafford is great when he's kept clean, but for a 37, soon to be 38-year-old quarterback, if you get him off his spot, it can really get off kilter. weirdly enough, he wasn't under that much pressure against Carolina. So it was just an off game for him until the end, until those last couple drives. So if the Rams keep Stafford clean, if they can run the football with Kyron Williams, that is huge. And obviously with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, like they'll get theirs in this game. But I agree with you. Like if you're the Rams, you have to start this game really well, and you cannot allow the Bears to have any sort of spark play or splash play to get them back on track. So look, I am going to go with the better team. I picked the Rams to win the Super Bowl in our preseason or before our predictions before the playoffs. I'm sticking with them. I think they'll win. This is the game that I think is most likely to be lopsided because if the Rams can get out in a big lead against the Bears and keep their foot on the gas, which they've had struggle doing at times this year on multiple occasions, but if they can do that, I think they can win comfortably. But I do think that the Bears do have some advantages with the weather, with the home field. If the Rams fail to contain Williams and get him out of the pocket, and struggle to cover Colston Loveland, that could be a problem. But I like the Rams. I think they're going to go in there and win. So I took the road team in 3 of the 4 matchups. The only home team that I took was Seattle. So give me Los Angeles.
I am also going to take the Rams. I picked against the Bears last week. I'm going to do it again this week. I think the Rams, in a weird way, like they have experience with the types of games the Bears play. Like if you remember their first Super Bowl run 4 years ago, they played a divisional round game against the Bucks that went like very similar to a lot of Bears games. Like they're 27-3. The Bucks had all the momentum in the world. Ended up, I think, tying the game, or they took a 1-point lead. I think they tied the game. It was like 27-27 because it was 27-3. I remember that because it was like close to 28-3. Made it 20. The Bucks made it 27-27. And we all remember that magical like blitz because Todd Bowles decided to be over aggressive. Blitz, Stafford hit Cooper Kupp, easy field goal, Rams win. The Rams are almost comfortable in those spots because it would have been very easy for a lot of teams to panic. Like I forgot if it was Kyron Williams who fumbled, that had the fumble, or if it was like another running back that I'm forgetting.
It was Cam Akers.
Cam Akers, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Like after that fumble, it would have been very easy for like offenses just to melt and be like, okay, we'll play for overtime. Sean McVay was like, no, we're going to go win this game. I think that game's going to be sneakily important, and I'm going to take the Rams to win this football game. I'm going to take them like 30-26, something like that. Give me the Rams. They're my Super Bowl pick too, and I'm going to stick with it. And we're going to get another 3 out of 4 wildcard teams for at least. No, it's 3 out of 4 for you, but only 2 out of 4 for me, but 1 on each conference.
Yeah, because you took New England. Yeah, yep. You took New England. So our only disagreement was the game on Sunday afternoon between the Pats and the Texans. But that game I think can go either way. This is the game, ironically enough, that I'm most confident in because I am most confident in the fact that the Rams are a better football team than the Bears. Whereas the other 3 games, so you could make the argument that one team is better than the other, or in the case of like maybe the Niners, like they just have the experience. I got my camera back working again, thank goodness. So I'm sticking with the Rams. I think it's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be a good atmosphere. But I think Chicago's season, which exceeded my expectations, really was kind of a magic carpet ride. Caleb Williams coming on in the second half of the season. I think it comes to an end in this one. But we'll see. We'll see. That's why they play the games. All right, that wraps it up for our divisional round preview and picks. So we are unanimous on the Bills, Seahawks, and Rams winning. And then I have the Texans going to the first conference championship in their franchise's history, whereas Lucas has the New England Patriots back on Championship Sunday. So that should do it. I'm really excited for the games starting on Saturday afternoon. Lucas, do you have any parting thoughts for these matchups before we get into our next segment?
I've given all my thoughts. We can move on to our coaching prediction segment.
All right. So we're not going to spend too much time on this. So as of right now, there are 9 head coach openings. The only one that's still up in the air is the Green Bay Packers with Matt LaFleur. We'll see what happens there. As of now, he is still their head coach. So, we're going to operate as if he is. So the open head coach positions are the Tennessee Titans. In order in which they opened are the Tennessee Titans, the New York Giants, the Atlanta Falcons, the Cleveland Browns, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Arizona Cardinals, the Baltimore Ravens, the Miami Dolphins, and then, of course, yesterday, the Pittsburgh Steelers after their playoff exit. So we will start in order of which the jobs opened. So that starts with the Tennessee Titans. So my prediction to take the job for the Tennessee Titans head coach is a man that is near and dear to Chiefs fans' hearts, Matt Nagy, the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs, will be the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. I think that is due to his relationship with their GM, Mike Borgonzi, the fact that they have a talented young quarterback in Cam Ward. Um, I like Matt Nagy to be their head coach, which Titans fans, you're getting a brilliant offensive mind, an offensive genius, the best coach on the market. You guys are set for the next 15 years at the head coach position. Enjoy Matt Nagy.
I have the same pick. I think Mike Borgonzi is going to want a Chiefs guy to be head coach, and Matt Nagy has experience. And at the time in Chicago, it didn't go very well, but he did win a division. He has multiple playoff appearances as a head coach. Maybe hopefully it goes better for him this time around. He is because he has Cam Ward, a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky, you would think. But I'm going to go with Matt Nagy as well.
All right, so that leads to the New York Giants, the other job that's been open for over 2 months, and the other job that opened in season. Brian Dable was let go after week 10. I don't think this one's very hard. A lot of breadcrumbs have been dropping. I think John Harbaugh will be the head coach of the New York Giants, announced here shortly. Obviously, the longtime Super Bowl winning head coach of the Ravens. I think Harbaugh ends up in the Big Apple coaching the Giants in 2026.
Yep, I'm the exact same way. There's some smoke related to that, whether Joe Shane will also be there with John Harbaugh. But I think it's going to be Harbaugh. I think the Mara and the Tisch family are going to want an experienced candidate this time. Got a few first timers in a row the past few years. I think they're going to want to go back to the experience. Which I think their last head coach they hired with experience was Tom Coughlin, if I remember correctly, because it was like
that worked out okay for them.
Exactly. It worked out okay. I think they're going to go down that well again. I think John Harbaugh deserves another opportunity, and I think it's going to be with the Giants.
All right. That leads us to the Atlanta Falcons. They fired Raheem Morris the day of the last game on Sunday. They move on there. And I think it's going to be another fired head coach taking their job. I have Kevin Stefanski going to Atlanta to coach the Falcons. Their quarterback situation is uncertain. We don't know when Michael Penix will be back. We don't know what the deal with Kirk Cousins is. Will they cut him? Will he retire? Who knows? So there's some uncertainty there, but there is talent on the roster. Their defense had one of the best pass rush units in the league this year. They have good weapons offensively. Maybe the best offensive skill player in the league in Bijan Robinson, and I think that'll be enough to bring Kevin Stefanski in. So I like the former Browns coach landing in Atlanta.
We're 3 for 3 so far. I also
Oh
have
my
Kevin
God!
Stefanski. I'm not much else to add. I don't have any I think the rest of the options I don't really have any real picks or not real picks but real confidence or real smoke. So it's just going to be a guess, but I think it's going to be Kevin Stefanski.
All right, so we'll see if we get any disagreements. Next up is his Kevin Stefanski's former team, the Cleveland Browns. That job opened early morning of Black Monday. This one I think is going to be a pretty uninspiring hire, but I do think the Browns are probably the least desirable opening. Horrible ownership, horrible organization, very little talent on offense. Obviously good pieces defensively, but a team that really isn't built to win yet. No answer at quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is not the answer. Sorry, Shedeur fans. He's not even close to the answer. But I think it's going to be someone within the division. Give me Todd Monken, the Ravens offensive coordinator, going to Cleveland to be the next head coach of the Browns.
I thought you were going to say a different name, based off uninspiring. I don't think Todd Monken is inspiring, so I agree with you there. I'm going to go a little bit closer to home. I'm going to go with Jim Schwartz. I think the Browns realize that defense has been performing. I wouldn't want Jim Schwartz as my head coach.
Sorry, keep going. I'll give my thoughts after that.
I don't know. I am probably more confident in this one than all my least confident ones, but I'm not super confident. But he has head coach experience, so maybe Cleveland likes that. and they just want to keep the defensive dominance going, and they'll try and just get a better offensive coordinator, but just get a culture changer. But like you said, it's not a desirable job, so why not just keep the guy that's already there that has experience?
That would be beyond uninspiring. Look, I think Jim Schwartz is a very good defensive coordinator. I think he's a really good defensive mind. He has not been a head coach since 2013. That would just be uninspiring beyond words. But like, who's going to take that job? Who wants to work for Jimmy Haslam? I wouldn't. That's for sure. So I think I think they're going to go with Todd Monken, but we'll see. Next up is another actually, this one's a little more desirable because you have the first overall pick. You potentially could have Fernando Mendoza coming on board. The Las Vegas Raiders, obviously moving on from Pete Carroll after just 1 year. Whether you want to look at a failed experiment depends on your views because they got the first overall pick, but obviously with a bad season. I think they're going to go with a bit of a home run hire here, a big swing rather, to see if it's a home run. I'm going to go with Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings, landing in Las Vegas. I think Mark Davis and Tom Brady will look for someone who can be a long-term answer, which Pete Carroll was not. Even if they had a good season this year, Pete Carroll was going to be there for maybe 2 or 3 years at most. Brian Flores is a guy who has head coaching experience, had 2 winning seasons in Miami, and obviously is one of the best defensive minds in the league. He is someone who I think can instill a culture there, and he's going to have a first overall pick at quarterback. I like Brian Flores going to Vegas to coach the Raiders.
I am going to go with Robert Saleh, pretty
Okay.
similar guy to Brian Flores. Had a previous head coaching job in the AFC East that didn't go well. Maybe it wasn't really his fault that he got fired, or it wasn't all his fault. But I'm going to go with Saleh nonetheless. He stays close to where he currently is, so he doesn't have to move his family that far. But I may or may not have Brian Flores showing up for another position here, so I'll talk about him later.
Alrighty. Next up. Oh my God. Talk about uninspiring, Lucas. The Arizona Cardinals. This might be the least. This will make Todd Monken look like the hire of the century. But they interviewed this person today, and given things that's transpired with his former team, it looks like he will not be there anymore. Coaching the Arizona Cardinals in 2026, I have Arthur Smith, former offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their season ends. Mike Tomlin no longer there. Has head coaching experience in Atlanta. Didn't go great. They weren't awful under him, but they were 7-10 all 3 years. They were just below average, mediocre. But does have some success as an offensive coordinator. I think did what he could with a pretty limited Pittsburgh offense this year. So look, if you're a Cardinals fan, you're not over the moon about it. But ultimately, I think that this is what Michael Bidwill will land on, which not very exciting, but it is what it is.
I I kind of agree with the principle of Arthur Smith, but I'm gonna get Arthur Smith from the opposite of Timu, maybe get an upgraded version of Arthur Smith, and that's Clint Kubiak. Kind of just keep the pattern of that division. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, just get the same guy from the same exact tree and just get Clint Kubiak. I think Kyle Shanahan, I know for a fact, coached under Gary Kubiak, Clint's father. I don't know if
Mhm.
McVay ever did, but he's from the same tree, so maybe the Cardinals be like, okay, it worked for two of our rivals. Let's go get a guy from the exact same system in Clint Kubiak.
Alrighty, that leaves three. The Ravens. So who will replace John Harbaugh after 18 years? I have someone who coached under his brother this year. That is Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator of the LA Chargers. I think will be the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. I think it'd be a great hire. I think obviously he's a great defensive mind. A big thing would be getting an offensive coordinator to work with Lamar Jackson this year. So yeah, I have Jesse Minter going to Baltimore. I think that'd be exciting if I'm a Ravens fan because I think Minter's one of the most qualified candidates on in this pool.
I am going to go. This is where I have Brian Flores going, coming off the board.
Okay.
I think Flores would make sense in that culture in Baltimore. He's just a tough guy, defense first. So I think Minter also makes sense, but I just think Brian Flores will be the guy. But again, I have no confidence, so this is just where I had Brian Flores landing in the game of musical chairs. That is the NFL coaching cycle.
Yes. So there's two left. We have the Miami Dolphins. Who will replace Mike McDaniel? I have another offensive mind. Uh, Someone Lucas already mentioned. Give me Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks. Has done a nice job this year with Sam Darnold. Obviously an OC for the top seed in the conference. The Dolphins have a lot of uncertainty because Tua will not be there next year. So they'll have a new quarterback, whether it's a free agent, whether it's a rookie, whether it's they trade for somebody. But I think Kubiak is a bright offensive mind for them to work with, and I think this is ultimately who they land on.
This is where I have Jesse Minter coming off the board.
Okay.
I just have no confidence. That it's not based off anything other than just my gut. But get the opposite of Mike McDaniel, who's an offensive minded guy. Get Jesse Minter, a young defensive minded guy. I think Minter's an excellent candidate. Stephen Ross might be willing to open his checkbook, and Minter might move his family from sunny LA to sunny Miami.
All right, so that leaves one more spot, the job that just opened, the job that's been occupied for the last 19 years, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Really looking at a reset. Though Aaron Rodgers will not be back. Mike Tomlin's obviously out. A lot of changes look like they're coming there. I think they're going to go with another young defensive coach for the third time in a row. Give me Chris Shula, the DC of the Los Angeles Rams, being the fourth head coach of the Steelers since 1969.
I agree. I think
Okay.
it's going to be Chris Shula. The Steelers like to hire coaches that last a long time, so I don't think they're going to go with a retread that's in his 50s. I think Chris Shula, he's very young. He's a defensive-minded guy. The Steelers pride themselves on having a good defense, which was true early in Tomlin's years, but hasn't been true since, or in the past few years, at least consistently. Go with Chris Shula. I think he's an excellent candidate. I think he's a better candidate than Jesse Minter personally, but it's not that, but not by that much. I think if the Chiefs were to move on from Andy Reid next year and Chris Shula was still available, I think he should kind of be the first call. But I think he'll be a Pittsburgh Steeler, and I think that'll be a home run hire for a team that moved on from a coach who gave them a lot of good seasons.
All right. That wraps it up. That's who our coaching predictions. We'll see what happens. None of the 9 slots been filled yet. We'll see when they are. Lucas and I, of course, will react to those accordingly. But that wraps up this episode. We gave our picks for the divisional round. We will be back next Tuesday to recap the divisional round. And of course, a week from today to look ahead to Championship Sunday in each conference. So, Lucas, do you have any parting thoughts before we disperse?
I do not. Let's go.
All right. Best weekend of the football season is here, everybody. We will see you after that. But for now, take care. Thanks.